Different goods can still be related to one another. My demand for pasta depends in part on the price of pasta sauce. Typically, I buy these things together, and so if sauce is really expensive, I might not be willing to pay very much for the pasta. Likewise, my demand for Reese's peanut butter puffs depends in part on the price of Frosted Flakes. Usually if I buy one of these, I don't buy the other. If Frosted Flakes are on sale, then I'm probably not willing to pay as much for Reese's Puffs. We've talked about these before, complements and substitutes. Complements are goods we consume together, like left and right shoes or peanut butter and jelly. Substitutes are goods we choose between, like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, or name brand and generic brand medications. We've already looked at how the indifference curves for these types of relationships look, but now we can examine their effect on demand. Peanut butter and jelly are complements. When the price of peanut butter falls, the demand for jelly increases. When the price of peanut butter rises, the demand for jelly falls. Let's take a look on the graphs below. We can show a decrease in the price of peanut butter by moving down along the demand curve for peanut butter. We can see that this movement represents the lower price as well as the consumer's reaction in that they will buy more peanut butter. The quantity demanded increased. But when they buy more peanut butter, they're going to want to buy more jelly to go with it. But the price of jelly hasn't changed. So this has to be represented by a shift in the demand for jelly. Here, the demand for jelly will increase and shift to the right. Essentially, consumers are taking some of their savings on peanut butter and using them to increase their willingness to pay for jelly. Alternatively, an increase in the price of peanut butter would look like this, with movement up along the demand curve until we reach the higher price and corresponding lower quantity demanded for peanut butter. If people buy less peanut butter, they will need less jelly to go with it, and the demand for jelly will fall, shifting to the left. When peanut butter is expensive, people don't have much left over for jelly, and so their willingness to pay for it falls. Now let's look at substitutes. Coffee and tea are substitutes. When the price of coffee falls, the demand for tea decreases. When the price of coffee rises, the demand for tea increases. We can show a decrease in the price of coffee with movement down the demand curve for coffee. People will buy more coffee, and likely some of those people would have otherwise bought tea. Since coffee is now relatively cheaper than it was before, people will substitute towards it, reducing their demand for tea, which will shift to the left. Note that it is not a requirement that coffee become cheaper than tea. It might still be more expensive even after the price falls, but there are certainly some people drinking tea who would prefer coffee except for the fact that it has been so expensive. Even a modest discount in the price will attract some customers to switch. And of course, the same is true if the price of coffee rises. Perhaps coffee was cheaper than tea and still is after the price increase. Nevertheless, some customers will now feel that tea is their best option, since they simply aren't saving as much by drinking coffee as they were before. A rise in the price of coffee will invariably lead to an increase in the demand for tea, which will shift to the right. What is so interesting about complements and substitutes is that they show how interconnected markets for different products are. Changes in one area of the economy can ripple through other markets, causing little adjustments in market demand all over. You'll want to keep this in mind when we consider how good of a job markets do at organizing our economic activity.